Welcome, you miserable ingrates. Welcome to the You Deserve Better podcast, a show by estranged kids for estranged kids. I am your host, the other son, he, him. We are here to share stories about healing from childhood trauma, often undiscovered until later in life. When I had my own awakening experience just a few years ago and discovered others going through what I'd been through, it was the first time I felt less alone. The first time I really felt understood. The first time to have that empowering validation that we're not the crazy ones. Today, to share their story with us, we are joined by Kim. Kim, thank you so much for being here.
Yes.
Kim, let's begin with your pronouns, please, and where you grew up.
Well, she, her, and I grew up in California.
Are you still in California?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
This is my home.
I like California. I've been in the state a few times, and if I could afford to live out there, maybe someday, maybe I can stay on your couch perhaps, just for a few months till I find a place.
Well, you know what? If you're a Californian, you would know the difference as far as cost of living. We're used to it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure. Yeah, I hear you. So let's get into the drama. Let's start with the trauma. When did you realize about your childhood was traumatic?
I think for me, it was more of like as I got older, and I started thinking about my childhood, it would be kind of like moments of things that happened in my childhood that I think my brain blocked out. As I got older and I started being an adult and I'm going about my life and trying to find who I am, I started realizing the older I got that a lot of the things were just not normal. They were not okay, and yet they were normalized.
Was there any kind of often I see a theme sometimes of some kind of external stimuli, like something outside of the family, like a friend making an observation, or maybe just getting away from the family in general. Was there some sort of external influence you think that helped you to realize over time?
Well, yes and no. So I did have some, sometimes, I would say a story to somebody or like a coworker or a friend, and they would tell me, that doesn't sound right. And, I always brushed it off as, oh, just my parents have a personality. And I think as I got older and I started being more vocal about certain things is when I realized that no, there's something wrong.
That actually reminds me a little bit of myself. That there were times in my life earlier. I can remember a couple occasions when somebody would point out to me. In both cases, it was a girlfriend at the time. Would say something to me about they would see me interacting with my mother, and they would say later, like, your mother doesn't really love you, or your mother isn't very nice to you. And at the time, because I was just eyes deep in the denial. I
Hmm.
defended my mother. I brushed it off, and I was like, "Oh, you just don't know her. That's how she is. Everything is fine." But then years later, after I'd had a major trauma in my life, and I was just broken, a third person made the same observation. I think there's something there with your mother, and this time it stuck, and that for me was my realization.
Yeah, there have been plenty of times where I did, get certain feedback from people where they would be like, especially from like close friends, because it's ridiculous to think about it now that my parents would bully kids, like my friends, or if I had a boyfriend, I've had several friends and boyfriends who said to me, I can't be with you, or I can't be around your parents. And
Wow,
it's sad. It's
wow.
sad to think that these grown adult people would bully high school children, middle school children.
What would be an example of something you would consider bullying that might have happened? Can you think of a specific?
Yes, yes, I can. So I had this friend in high school, and we'll call her D for now. So she had a disability, a physical disability, where she had disfiguration in her hands and in her feet. And me and her, we got along great. She was my best friend, and we talked about everything, hung out. Her parents were just the nicest people. They would always invite me on Fridays to go to IHOP, and we would order burgers and appetizers. And her family was so welcoming with me. And I remember one time where, my mom, was like, okay, yeah, you can bring her, whatever. And so we went out to eat. and my friend ordered a piece of steak. And my friend, she couldn't cut the steak because of her deformity. So, I just
Right.
went in and I just, started helping her cut her steak. And I said, hey, Dee, here you go. And my mom had a look on her face. And then later on in private, when my friend was gone, she said to me, your friend uses you as a service person for her. You know that, right? And I'm just thinking to myself, like, why would anybody do that? And it just, I just couldn't believe. And now that as an adult, I think about that, I'm just like, why are you so upset that I'm helping a person who has a disability? You should instead feel warmth that your child knows how to treat people.
Right, right, right. My one thing that I've discovered about, well, I guess narcissists, certainly my mother, is that they don't feel real emotion. They can't really feel real emotion, and so
Mhm.
oftentimes for them, it's something transactional. And they sort of try to
Yes.
equate it through money, for example. Like if ever there was an argument
Mhm.
with my mother, it'd be, oh, we spent so much money on you. How can how can you say that I don't love you? I spent so much money on you, because then that's an equivalent. And so when I hear you saying that your mother, oh, your friend is using you, what I hear
Mhm.
is someone who can't even contemplate that you might be just doing something because you care about this person, that you're not getting a
Yes.
value out of it, you're not being compensated in some way, that it's not transactional, that it's pure. Like she's just
Mhm.
using you. Maybe you like to do it. Is that a possibility that maybe you simply enjoy helping your friend? And that just, wow, it says so much. Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. And you're totally right about that because everything that now that, I've grown up, I'm 34 years old, and I think back to a lot of things is yes, you're completely right about the narcissism, that everything for them is conditional and it's a transaction. It's a business for them, not a business for both people, both parties. It's only for them. It's one-sided. So, and you're totally right about that because I've heard my mother say it all my life. When someone is acting funny, quote unquote, because they won't do something for her or they did something to her. So, another example I have is, I'm an immigrant. I came here from El Salvador. I was actually smuggled here by my parents when I was 4 years old, and
Wow.
my mother later on, and I want to say this was 10 years ago, she paid someone to smuggle my aunt into the country illegally. So when my aunt came to this country, my mom made it as she did such a great deed for her. She helped her bring her and her kids here to America so she could have a better life. And as soon as my aunt started trying to detach herself from my mom and look for a job herself and be independent with her children, my mother shut her out and would call her ungrateful. And at one point, this is how bad it got. At one point, my mother called me and she said, your aunt is doing things she's not supposed to do. I need you to call immigration on her because she's living here illegally. I don't know what my aunt did or didn't do for my mom. That it wasn't a transaction it was convenient for my mom. So my mom decided I'm going to ruin my sister's life and call immigration on her.
Did she do it? Did she actually do it?
No, she didn't do it, obviously, because my aunt is still here. But I remember talking to my aunt and I said, "What did you do or didn't do for my mom?" And my aunt
It
just
doesn't matter.
laughed.
It doesn't
It
matter,
doesn't
honestly.
matter, but I just wanted to see the silliness of
Right.
my mom's delusion.
How petty was
And
it?
and so my aunt said, "Oh, she was just mad because like I was and again my aunt and my mom live in the same city, so my in another state, and so my aunt just said my husband didn't want to follow the terms of whatever contract they had. My husband didn't think it was right. Her terms were ridiculous, because I think my mom was helping them with something. I don't even know what it was, but my aunt said we just didn't agree with her. So she got mad at me and my husband and just started threatening us. And I said, okay, well now I
That's
understand the phone call.
Yeah, that's incredible, and it's something else that I feel like I often see with a narcissist parent is this idea that like family is like a bond, it's an obligation. Like
Yes.
blood. You only have one mother, for example, and that family. Oh, you can't hold a grudge against family, and that you are
Mm,
obligated to always love family, no matter how much they treat you or how poorly they treat you. And I feel like that's something they prey upon, and hear that this
yes.
idea that you owe me so much, and that's just that's shocking. And when you
Yes.
mentioned about calling immigration, it just reminded me back to when I was in eighth grade, and I skipped school a few times. So
Hmm.
my mother's perfectly rational response was to call social services and try to have me put in foster care.
And you know
She
what that
tried to have them
is?
take me away, and then when she was unsuccessful, I went to boarding school the next year.
Oh my God. And you know what? I remember hearing that on your podcast about that. And you know what that is called? And, English is actually my second language, but my therapist said the word because, and now I use it, but like I said, my English sometimes, I can't pronounce certain words, but she says, my mother catastrophized. Oh, I see. I told you I
Wow,
can't even pronounce the
I can't
word,
pronounce
but
that.
so she says she made everything a catastrophe for me, and it's the same way because I was a normal teenager, behaving normal teenager. I'm curious about boys, I want to be with my friends, I want to do all these things, right? And my mom would shame me like I robbed a bank.
Oh,
And that's I explained it to my therapist that way, and she says that's what that is. And I remember your podcast. You said that your brother had done some vandalization, right?
right.
And your mother just laughed with him. And it's similar to like I lived with something similar like that because like my brother was always put on a pedestal. My brother could do no wrong. My brother did everything right. Well, no, he did not. He's still at home with mom. Okay, he's almost 30 and he's at home with mom. While I am a homeowner. I am trying to go to nursing school. I am doing all these great things on my own,
Go
yet
you,
I'm
go you.
I'm
I'm
the
cheering for you.
problem. Thank you.
Just
But that's what that is. They catastrophize. I can't even say it.
Catastrophizing. I don't know. I've never heard this word myself either. It sounds like Worcestershire sauce. Nobody says it right. But I get
So
the idea.
yes,
Catastrophizing, maybe making, and
yes.
that's a great idea, that word. And it makes me think a little bit about a self-awareness that came to me after something I was blind to my whole life until after my awakening, was that a big source of a lot of my problems were that when I would get more upset about things than I should, or I get sadder about things than I should,
Mhm.
and I finally saw the pattern that was there my whole life, that it was emotional dysregulation, that my
Yes.
emotional responses were over the top, and I feel like that's probably also the case to a certain degree with my mother, because as much as she's the villain, she's also the victim. She was
Mhm.
beaten down mentally by my grandfather, I'm sure. So but that's how it manifests in me, the emotional dysregulation, the idea of catastrophizing, feels like another way of sort of saying that. Like things that should be a
Yes.
smaller reaction are,
Yes.
over the top. Um,
Yes.
so your mother, it sounds like, is sort of the toxic parent. Are your parents married, divorced, live? What's the situation with the parents?
My parents are, yes, they're both still alive as far as I know. They are. I'm 34 years old, so my mother was a teen mom actually, and I unfortunately grew up watching domestic violence. My father was very violent towards my mom, violent towards me as well, and he's an alcoholic. He still is an alcoholic. He won't lay off the booze, and my dad is 5 years older than my mom. I think my dad's 55. I see, and not being around them, I've lost count. So my parents were young
How long? Let
parents,
me interrupt.
and
How long no contact? Are you no contact with them? How long?
yeah, I have 5 years, over 5 years of no contact now, and I have succeeded. I have succeeded more in life without them.
Hmm. Great.
I feel like they purposely, my mom definitely would sabotage everything I would do, and it's crazy because I could see, the jealousy and how she feels like her daughter is her competition. It's
Okay.
sad. It's
Intimidated.
sad.
Intimidated by you. Yeah.
Yes, yes. I'm so great that
I'm
she's
intimidated by
intimidated.
you. Geez, you got everything. I mean, you're doing everything right. I'm intimidated a little bit over here. Fantastic. So was there sort of a breaking point when you say that it was sort of always bad, and then you've cut off contact for so long now? Was there sort of a straw that broke the camel's back, or what was like the
Oh yeah,
last talk
yeah.
like?
So it's funny that you say that because I remember getting into this debate with my husband one time because my husband said, you're kind of wrong at the point that, you cut off your mom at this time and it makes it look like you cut her off because she wouldn't babysit. No. So let me tell you how it went real quick. My son was 5 months old. And at the time, me and my husband were struggling. We were trying to do things, get back on our feet. I had just been on maternity leave for so long, and the finances were kind of hard at the moment. They were a little rocky. So, I remember, telling my mom, "Hey, mom, you said you wanted to spend more time with your grandchild. Hey, and you're not working for another month. Did you want to come down here and take care of my son for about a week while I pick up a lot of overtime?" Which is available. And she was like, "Yeah, I'll let you know." She's like, I don't work till next month, so yeah, I'm coming down. I'll come down. I'll come down on Wednesday." And I said, "Okay, cool." So I'm here trying to figure out and make arrangements so that she could be comfortable in our home, and
Right.
she can have her time with my son. Um, Came Wednesday. Actually, Tuesday, I texted her and I said, "Hey, mom, are you coming down tomorrow?" And I never heard back from her. So I said, "Oh, maybe she's sleeping or packing, whatever." Wednesday came around, no word.
She's
Then
supposed to be there
Thursday came
Wednesday,
around.
right? Was she supposed to be there
Yes,
on Wednesday?
yes,
Okay. Just making sure I'm
yes.
not losing
So
track here.
Thursday, no word. Friday, no word. I didn't reply to her. I didn't
This,
say anything to her. At that point, I was pretty angry because I missed out on a lot of overtime. Then Saturday
and
came
not
and
even
she
responding.
texts,
Not even responding.
no. Saturday came and she said, "Oh, I can't make it out there Saturday." And I think even though it's not such a big deal, I think to me the big deal was the mind games.
I,
The mind
I think
games.
it's a huge deal. I mean, what a great way to say I don't give a hoot about spending any time with my grandchild. I
Yes.
means, I mean, it's not even worth like sending a note to say I'm not going to make it. I mean, that's a huge deal.
Mhm. It is. It is. But I think it's the fact that, I if she would have come to me and said, "Hey, your dad doesn't want me to go," I would have understood. Or if she said, "Hey, I'm really busy, I can't go."
that
Just
that's very
communication.
generous of you to say, that my father doesn't want you to come see your grandchild. That's okay. That's very generous of you there.
I would have taken that
I feel like you're
over
still
over
giving a lot of
games.
slack, honestly.
Yes, I am. Exactly. I think I've been plenty fair. And I would have at least said, "Okay, fine. You know what? I understand my dad is very needy. I get it." But no word, no word. And I think at that point, it was more about her mind games. It was about her. At that point, as a mother, I think I had already, been at my wits' end because, she kept shaming me for mother things. So, like, for example, and this is going to be a little explicit, but my son was circumcised when he was a baby. I made that choice to have him circumcised, and in our country, you don't do that. So
Mhm.
she shamed me. Every diaper change, she would shame me for doing that to my son. And I'm here telling her about the long term and the medical aspect of it. I am a medical worker. So this is, I'm looking at it as a medical point. She's looking at it as, "You're a bad mother for doing that to your child."
That's too personal a decision, I think, for really anyone else to be able to say something about that
Yes.
to you.
Yes, I
That's
I completely agree.
let's uh let's switch gears into the nice stuff. Like we were saying, we were playing for the nice stuff. Let's talk about you sound great. You talked about schooling, house, and all that. Uh, what are some positive things? It sounds like since you've made this change in your life, since this terrible incident and everything before that, that I mean, you're really like blooming into your own. What are some positive changes in your life as a result of your recovery from this?
Well, I'm going to tell you, it hasn't come easy. It hasn't come easy. It's not all peaches and cream. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. It has been a challenge. So it hasn't always been great. But long term, And it sounds kind of corny, but yes, time does heal. It takes time to heal and get over certain things. And it took me a while to realize and settle with the fact that my parents just had it in for me in some weird way. And but I feel like I've made a lot of progress without them, just because I kept getting sabotaged with everything I wanted to do in life. And so now I feel like the positive is, the fact that I was able to succeed as far as I've gotten with no resources, no help. I have no family. Me and my husband are able to do these things like buy a home. We're able to work. We're able to take care of our children. We're able to do a lot of things that we never thought we were capable of. Mind you, my husband has trauma as well. He grew up in very bad environments when he was young. So me and him both take each other's energy. I guess we're just so screwed up. We turned it into a positive. Two negatives make a positive.
Right. Would
So
would you say that your belief in yourself has been a
it's
factor
stronger.
in this, is stronger, and has helped you to accomplish more?
Yes, yeah. I think for me, it's more of an anger thing. I've been so angry that I'm turning it into a positive instead of sitting and moping. Believe me, there are days where I do sit here and mope.
Right.
But most of the time I channel that anger and I feel like I have to prove. And it's not for them, it's for me. I just have to prove that I can do these things. Like it's kind of a like, I tell my husband one day, that one day I would, if I ever see them, I would like to be like, I did this shit without you.
Right.
I
Right.
did it without you. What did
But
you do to help me succeed? Or
mother
what did you think you could do
mother's worst
for me?
nightmare. Mother who's intimidated by you to see you doing just fine without her. Worst nightmare.
Yes.
Worst nightmare.
Yes. And I would love to rub that in her face. But and that's the petty side of me. But I think that if she ever shows up on my doorstep, I can cordially tell her, please get off my property and leave it as that.
Kim, I sincerely appreciate you coming on the show today, the courage it takes to share your story. Thank you so much for coming by, and we'll talk again someday.
Absolutely. It was nice being here. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Please share the podcast if you love it so much. Join our Facebook group. I'd love to see you there. And we have the YouTube channel. Please subscribe to that. I'll admit, occasionally I do look at my YouTube to see if there's some new subscribers. And there's a new subscriber. I kind of like, yes. And also, if you'd like to be on the show, please drop us a line at udbpodcastrules@gmail.com. I am the other son. Until next time, let them burn their eyes on you.